Hello and welcome to Our Spirited Life, with spirit meaning our vital animating essence and life being our very existence. We're here to engage and inspire you with enlightening, humorous and sometimes irreverent or deep conversation around real life issues. Our experiences may have gifted us a few wrinkles, but we've also gained wisdom, strength, humility, the ability to laugh at things which wouldn't have had us laughing before and previously made us cry, and the desire to make a big difference to those who still struggle with life's many challenges. My guests share how they've created a truly successful life and spirited life and their journey to reaching this. Listen to the very end for some top tips and a fabulous music choice. So, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome to this week's issue Ingeborg Mooiweer.
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 Yes.
I'm
Mooiweer.
delighted to introduce you. Ingeborg is described as a beacon of transformation in the world of personal development and talk therapy. Renowned as the prophet of personal breakthroughs, she's been the chosen guide for the world's most successful individuals, offering a path to true freedom and explosive success. I'm excited just reading that, Ingeborg. So welcome to Our Spirited Life. We're speaking online. I'm in Cheltenham in the Cotswolds in England. Please tell us first, where in the world are you?
Thank you very much for your welcome. I'm in Holland.
Yes.
I'm near the coast, a place called Heemstede. Probably very few people will know that. It's not too far from Amsterdam, like everything
Okay.
is in Holland.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
very green.
Lovely. And are you actually on the coast? Can you see the sea from your house?
Well, it's a few kilometers. So
Oh,
I
okay.
can't see it, but it's not too far
Not
from
too
me
far. Yeah. It's the one thing we don't
really,
have in the middle of the Cotswolds is the sea, but we have other lovely things too. Yeah.
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 I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now just please go again and say your name so that I know I'm saying it as close as I can to getting it right.
Yeah. Ingeborg, as with that the G.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Mooiweer. And
Ingeborg.
my surname, Ingeborg, yeah. My surname means beautiful weather.
Oh,
Actually.
okay.
So it's
Okay.
in Holland it's quite a funny name because
Okay.
everybody makes jokes about it. Yeah.
Okay. But I like the
Yeah.
soft ending to Ingeborg.
Ingeborg.
That's very nice. So let's get going with the conversation. I have some questions I'd love to ask you.
Mhm.
You and your website appear colourful, positive, and exciting. Was this always the case in your life?
Well, not always. Well, there's always been that part in me being colorful and, well, exciting, maybe not all the times,
Mm,
but certainly a drive and certainly sort of something within me to spark me to go on.
great.
That's
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You described growing up as challenging. Would you share something about this to us? Because it's our lived experience, isn't it, that put we are where we are now?
Right now, yeah, exactly. I grew up with a narcissistic mother
Okay.
and was, well, to put it like really blunt, horrendous time.
Yeah, I can
Uh, very,
understand.
yeah, very challenging, fearful as well.
Oh,
I don't know if the listeners or you know anything about the narcissism, but they
yes.
have the tendency to get under your skin.
Yes.
Um, and
Very
obviously, yeah, I grew up
manipulative.
very manipulative, yeah, and you start doubting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Basically, there's no room for any other than the narcissist, um, and they take. So I'm very good at adapting. I learned how to adapt. I learned
Mm,
to be hyper alert, to
mm,
always read, her and my
Mm.
mother
Mm.
to make sure she wouldn't get angry, which she
Oh my
did. So
gosh, as a child with a mother must be. I can't imagine that. Well, my mother was very controlling.
mhm.
Not, and so that was difficult. But were you? What about your father? And were you an only child? Or was it just you and your mother?
No, my parents got divorced when I was 5, and I have a brother. So with my brother and me and my mother then, and we
Okay.
lived,
And is
the
it
three
an
of us.
older
Yeah.
brother? Was he there for you, or did you protect him, or what was that dynamic like?
He is older. He's almost 3 years older. Um, yeah. He was there obviously, and
Mm.
I could say in a sense he was protecting. But the thing is, with narcissism as well, is that you always have the sort of the scapegoat and the golden child. And so there was a different dynamic. I mean, we were good together, my brother and me, which was still good together. But it's still the thing is as well. You sort of defend yourself, or you
Mm.
fend for yourself, something
Mm.
like that.
Mm.
Uh, and obviously, and maybe it was back in the days because it's obviously a while ago. It wasn't as normal talking about it as it is now.
True. Yes,
You know,
true. And
yeah,
also
yeah,
sometimes mothers and their sons, he would have been golden boy. Um, they,
yeah.
they can be very like that and create not very good husbands for their future wives, which
Well,
is another
he was
story.
actually, he was actually. So um, I think it's due to his own great character
Hmm.
uh, that he turned out really well.
Oh,
And
good.
yeah, he did, or he does. Yeah, but it was a strange dynamic. But I think, yeah, because I heard that from like clients as well, that back in the day, it wasn't, you didn't talk, I didn't tell anyone.
Mm.
I never said anything, not to my grandparents or to friends or things like that. It
Did
wasn't
they
like
not? Did
that.
they not notice? Did you have friends to come round for tea or sleepovers? And was your mother? Did she sort of behave then, or?
Well, the thing with narcissism is you have like different types, and she
Yeah.
was the expressive one. So she
Hmm.
could be very charming, but that's the whole thing,
Oh yes.
they're
Yeah.
charming, dancing on the table and being open and ask people around to stay for dinner. So
Mm.
if that's what you see as like a friend of mine, that's really sort of welcoming.
Yes. Oh yes.
Um,
Get that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's difficult to see for other people from the outside what's happening when they're
Mm-hmm.
not there.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
so obviously there have been a few times that people saw her anger because she
Mm.
could like explode
Mm.
like
Mm.
that.
Mm.
They've seen it, but it's very few times because usually they do it when there are not other
Yeah,
people
they're very
around.
clever. So this is an
Yeah,
extraordinary, challenging upbringing. Did it make
yeah,
you leave home early? Did it make you determined to leave?
yeah. Because in the end, when I got older, it was getting worse and worse.
Mm.
And then I think I was about 12 or 13 or so. Many a time she came into my room and she said, "When you come back this afternoon, you should have packed your suitcases and you should be leaving home."
From the age of 12?
Yeah, just leave the house, just leave the house. And obviously, I didn't have anywhere to go. So,
Mm.
but that fear, what I just said in the
Mm.
beginning,
Mm.
was always there. But I went home,
Mm.
you know, she
Ingeborg.
couldn't speak to me for like 3 weeks or something, like the silent treatment.
Mm.
Um, and then at the age of 16, I finally left home. I went to
And
live on my own.
how were you in yourself when you left home at 16? At 16, did you begin to find, was it a relief in some ways to be free? I can remember, this is a terrible thing to say, but I actually meant it. I asked myself a question quite a few years ago now. With
Mhm.
my mother was an amazing woman, but very controlling, and what we used to call sort of acid drops coming from her mouth. Didn't care what came out of her. I'm quite, in a way, I suppose I'm a Piscean, so I'm quite soft and nurturing. And I thought to myself, am I going to have to wait till she's dead before I feel free?
Yeah.
Thankfully, I went to look after her in her last few months of her life when she was dying of cancer, and it was so healing. I just threw unconditional love at her, and we had the most wonderful time in a way. A lot of love, a lot of hugs, a lot of laughter, a lot of talk. And that was a privilege, and thank goodness we did that, because I'd have felt dreadful if we hadn't actually done that.
Yeah.
Is your mother
Yeah.
still alive now?
No, she passed away last year.
Okay. And was that really hard?
Um, well, to be honest, not, but
Mhm.
that's because I haven't seen her or haven't seen her for 17 years
Right.
before she passed.
Yeah.
So I did the mourning and all the stuff to get over it in those years as well, and in the year
Yes.
before. But
Yes.
I had my mourning and things like that. So
Yeah.
when the time was there,
Yeah.
and mind you, I haven't seen her for like 17 years, which is a really long time.
17.
Um,
17.
yeah,
Yeah.
17, yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't see her for that amount of
Mm.
time. So it was, I mean, I went to see her in a hospital just for my own sake, not
Yes.
like hoping that would
Yes.
be good, but just to sort of, yeah, finish it like a sort of
Yeah.
ritual.
Closure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
and that was good.
Bravo you. Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. Whew. However,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I was so happy to see you use the word resilience, which is one of my favorite topics. So, how did you hone your own resilience? Well, clearly, you've told us what a hellish childhood and start in life you had, but you didn't let that bring you down or define you, much as though it just sounds so sad, actually. So, how did you
Mhm.
begin to hone? Was it from 16 when you left home? Where did you go when you left?
I went to live in a nearby city, and I continued school. I
Okay.
wasn't in a high school back then, so I needed to finish high school and went on to studying. And it was a nearby city.
Mm,
Uh,
mm. So,
yeah,
how
but
did
the
you
thing was,
survive? How did you
uh,
survive?
well, we have this, how do you call that system where students can get loans to
Okay.
do their
Yeah.
study like that. And you were entitled when you were living on your own and you were
Yeah.
doing like high school and
Yes.
back
So
onto high
government
studies.
help. Mm,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mm, mm,
So, and the thing was, I was quite self-sufficient when I was home because I
mm,
needed to do a lot.
mm.
Um, so I know how to wash and cook and do all
Yes.
those things. So
Yes.
wasn't in that sense not much of a
Wasn't a
difference.
shock.
And
Yeah.
no, and it was what you said, a sort of relief because you don't have that
Oh,
nagging and all the
yeah.
the anger and
Toxic.
everything.
Yeah. And for
That
somebody who is the person who is supposed to love you unconditionally, to have that hammering at you all the time, I'm just
mm,
delighted you're sane, quite honestly, and that you've chosen to do what you
how
do.
I think.
So let's
How I
get on
think.
to that. And actually, before we do,
Yeah.
so you honed your own resilience by being independent and then studying. Perhaps, did that sort of help you with moving forward and seeing a
Yeah,
future?
and I think like what I said in the beginning, there was always this sort of little flame, I would maybe call it, or something that it that it could be different.
Yeah. It was your
That I
spirit,
needed to
darling.
give up. Say it again.
It was your spirit.
Yeah, well,
Your
maybe.
vital animating essence.
I didn't know back then. I didn't know back then. But it's it's something like I felt I needed to go on because uh, with all the things I believed, because whatever she said to me, you start believing that because it's your mother. But there's always a part of me I thought, well, it can't be right. It's not right. It's not, this is not about me. But in the end, I sort of lost myself and my identity for like a long time. But there was still that part I thought, well, I sort of need to rebuild this. I need to rebuild this part and obviously make it bigger. So that resilience, I mean, I had a lot of things happening throughout my life. Unfortunately, I should say. But I think that was the same thing. It always sort of knocked me down for a bit, but then there was always something in there that I thought, well, it could get better.
Yes.
It doesn't
Yes.
stay like this.
And refusal to be down there on the ground. Absolute refusal to keep moving forward and upwards. And bravo. You mentioned disconnecting from your feelings and what that made you do or not do. And this, of course, sounds quite troubling. Would you please describe this, or how you do it, and what was it like? And I suppose it could have positives, but it doesn't sound like it does. But maybe it's a form of self-preservation.
It's survival mechanism. Yeah, it's called the dissociation. It's what people do if they experience trauma.
Yes.
At that extent and for a longer time, it's just something the mind does in a way of coping. And it was my survival mechanism. I just could basically sort of stand beside myself and still keep going. That's why I went to school. That's why I did stuff. That's why I got on my studies and things like that. That's why I could live on my own on 16. Because if I think if I sort of took it all in, all the feelings and everything, I think I would be lost.
Well, yes, because you would begin to blame yourself. And it wasn't, as you say, it was not you, it was your mother. But as a child from the get-go, having that into you, it's so sad, because it is a disorder, personality disorder, isn't it? And now she could probably, had she chosen to, got help. And schools might have seen something, or a friend might have said so. It's very, very different now. Do you have your own family now?
I do. And I still see my family with my father and my brothers, and I've got 2 children myself. So, I've made my own family.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And is there much, I mean, obviously it sort of taught you how not to be a parent, but is there anything you took from being a daughter to your mother into when you were pregnant and thinking, okay, when this baby is born, this is what I am or I'm not going to do? Clearly there are many things.
Yeah, absolutely. I so decided to do it totally different. I know I'm not a narcissist. I mean, I even had it, just for myself. So I know I'm the same. But I didn't want them to obviously get the same and everything. So I made a promise to myself to get them really good self-esteem. Good identity, that they can share their feelings, that it's okay. Obviously, I must have done something, like all parents. I'll hear that back when they're a bit older, but for the most part, it's I sometimes get like compliments from people that they say like, it's sort of wonder that you can have your boys grown up like that.
Well, you are your own personality, aren't you? And clearly a very strong and warm personality. And so it's not as though, I mean, I know there's that saying that in my last podcast, we talked about the abused becoming the abuser, but clearly it's also in your genetics and in your personality too. So how did you disconnect and do disassociation? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because I'm very emotional, and sometimes
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really blocking. Well, like, I mean, because the feelings are in your upper body. They're not
Yes.
here. They're
Yes.
in your upper body. Yeah. So maybe your
And
heart or
hurts.
your
Yeah.
whatever.
Mm.
Yeah. And when you feel that, you start like pushing it down. It's
Mm.
not there. It's not there. The mind is so strong that usually what happens, you
Mm.
overtake with your mind,
Mm.
start thinking about something else, or maybe that inner criticism voice, start telling
Mm.
you something. Oh,
Mm.
don't be a whoosh.
Mm. Mm.
It's not that bad. Whatever. You do everything, or you distract yourself.
Yes, yes. Oh, this is a
Something.
lot of the mental toughness, the resilience that in the workshop, and it's very effective. But I know, well, I don't know personally, but from
Mhm.
some of the stories in my books, when you, even as a child, which clearly you said, when there's sexual abuse or something going on, you can get out of your body,
Yeah.
disassociate, and
Yeah.
just not be, it's not happening to you. And
No.
that must
No.
be, that's not a decision or a choice that you make, is it? Because how can a child do that under such trauma? Is it something that just comes for survival?
Yeah. It's a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
That's what. It's too painful. You can't handle it, but you need to because you're in there. You can't go
Mm,
anywhere. Obviously, when you're little,
mm,
that's what the mind does.
mm. It's like,
So
I
in
suppose,
a sense, it's beautiful.
the body goes into shock when you've had a terrible accident or something, and so you don't feel the pain initially that you would
Yeah.
would then feel perhaps later.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Similar. Oh,
So was it a consistent or constant element of disconnecting and then reconnecting? And did you do something specific to reconnect with yourself?
yeah. I went into therapy afterwards, and yeah, and then you start learning how to connect and stay with those feelings and
Yeah.
learn how to manage them actually, because
Yes.
that's I never learned how to manage,
Yes.
or back then I never learned how to manage because
Yeah.
it wasn't supposed to be there. So you
Yeah.
need to learn how to manage it, that it's okay, that you have feelings, that they'll
Mm,
come and
mm,
go,
mm.
and it's still there, that you can still
Yeah.
breathe.
So you
And
are truly authentic in the work that you do as the Mind Breakthrough, but you started in the corporate world.
I did, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I went on to hotel management actually.
Yes.
That was
From
my back.
university.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then so I did that, and I started working. I lived for 5 years in London in the hotel business,
Mm-hmm.
and then I came back home, came back to Holland, and there I went working in. I got working in corporates, leading big teams,
Mm-hmm.
managing big teams, and I really liked it actually. But I did make the transition in 2000, roughly, and starting a study actually more towards the feeling side, so to speak.
Yes. Would you say
Yeah.
that's the metamind? Because there's metaphysical, but then there's metamind.
Yeah, it actually now it sort of came into that after all those years, because I had the practice for 19 years this year, and now it's came into that. So I've sort of combining everything I did, and it's part of my character as well. It's
Mm.
the sort of analytical and the feeling side.
Yes, the feelings. Speaking of your character, what they say on the reviews on your website about your compassion, your empathy, because you've really been there. And for some people, they would take a different path and they might be angry or bitter or resentful, but you've used your experiences to learn from them and to
Mm.
help other people. And I think compassion is such an important thing, as much as self-compassion is important. Doug, the
Yeah,
CEO and founder of AQR International, with whom I partner with the mental toughness, he I had a post that was, I've been there, so I've done it, so you can too. And we were on a Zoom. He said, Susie, he said that could actually create mental sensitivity in someone because they may not be in a place where they feel they can do it too. I thought, crikey, that's a very good point. So I changed it, obviously, but he told me about a book by Paul Bloom called Against Empathy, The Case for Rational Compassion. Have you come across that one?
No, not yet.
He said it
Not
would
yet.
blow my mind, and I've got it, but I
Yeah.
have to admit I haven't read it yet. But I'm going to pick it out today. It's in my cupboard, I think. But I think that might be of interest to you. I don't know. You're obviously very experienced in this, but it's quite an interesting title.
Well, it's good
Against
because
Empathy. Mm.
yeah, I started reading again because I
Hmm.
love reading. So I'm taking that on. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
I'll put it in my email afterwards to you.
Great.
So, um, with many of us in the world, personal development, you use your lived experiences to help others. Now, with
Mhm.
your Metamind Breakthrough program, how exactly do you do this?
Well, I get basically to the core issue, like the hidden issues, the subconscious issues. People usually are stuck, and I work in like the relationship realm. It's quite broad.
Through
Could be
talking.
different things. Yeah, through talking as well, and using other therapy forms. I've got many modalities which I can use.
Okay.
Um, and so, because I've been doing it quite a long time, you get your own method.
Yeah.
And that's actually the Metamind. So, I'm using all the things I did and my own experience. Am I, yeah, I'm highly sensitive as well. So, I'll pick up on things if I work with people. So, that's what I use as well. So, it comes to like a combination of all three.
Yes.
And that's what I use. So I go to the core issue, the core
Yes.
problem, why they are stuck.
Right. And then
And
you work
usually,
from there.
yeah, get
Yeah.
the unconscious should become conscious because then you can deal with it, then you can handle it, then you can
Mm,
change it.
mm,
Because it's unconscious, yeah, you don't know.
mm,
That's the thing.
mm,
So
mm,
what I do, but it's a combination of inside inner child work as well, because we
mhm,
need to go to the core, the inner child, the wound,
mm.
which there the wound needs to be healed, and yeah, that's a process. You
Yes.
really have to do that sort of with someone.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. And so, just go back to MetaMind, how you would describe that. What came together to make it that sort
The
of all
well, like I said, the my own experience,
mm,
especially like the dissociation, what we talked
mm,
about, the
mm,
not being able to feel your feelings and not know what you do with it, because
mm.
that's the base of, all your decisions are taken from your feelings.
Yes.
Um, and if you can't access them and
Mm,
you live in your head, which I
mm,
did for a long time as well, because that's what I knew, and that's how I survived. Basically,
mm,
a lot of people have that, and
mm,
that could be because of real big trauma. That could be because of lack of, having emotions at home. It could be different things,
mm, mm,
but they start living in their heads, so they say,
mm,
uh,
mm.
and I need them to connect back to their feelings. But
Okay.
at the same time, people like insight as well. They want to know what's really going on.
Right.
So that's and I use like how your mind works, that you work with your mind rather than against it, because that's what a lot of time we do. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of giving insights as well. So what's happening in your mind, but what's happening here in your feelings,
Mm,
and you have to
mm,
connect the two.
mm,
um, and this whole feeling world, so to speak, there's a lot to learn there for people.
mm,
So that's a
mm,
journey. So I learned and how to do that. Yeah, if you want to change that, and
mm,
if you're there, what do you do? How do you cope with the feelings?
mm,
get the dialogue with the inner child, but that's sometimes it's so woo-woo for people in the
Mm.
beginning. So
Mm.
it's a process. I have to take them there, take some time.
Mhm.
I always it's like detective work in the beginning.
Oh,
So
yes.
many different parts. Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
many different parts, so many
yeah,
different things,
yeah.
and I need to make the connection for them because
Yes,
they can't,
can't.
because it's in their pain.
S
And that's the insight they need to have to
Yeah.
understand that if they're triggered in here, in the now, it's
Mhm.
because something happened in their childhood.
Yes, yes,
And that's the insight then they need to know, and they need to experience and feel and live through and work through and, well, battle through
mhm,
sometimes. And
mm.
you get the change. And
Yes,
then you start healing the wound, and then you can change and,
yes.
become
So
another
would you
person.
say while Metamind Breakthrough is a program, you probably is it flexible that when you work with certain people, you know that you need to go down that path and use that modality?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
where
never,
your empathy and your sensitivity comes in that, this one I need to do this and
yeah,
okay.
yeah, 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 because it's custom made. It's not like, oh, I've got something on the shelf, and
Mm,
it's for
mm,
everyone. It's
mm,
really what you say,
mm,
feeling, hearing the story, knowing, where they want to go,
mm.
and then, yeah, it's like in the moment is the experience as well.
Okay.
Uh, yeah,
And whilst you are working with your client, do you call them clients?
yeah,
Yeah.
clients, yeah.
Um, how do you protect yourself? Because, you went through all of that trauma and now you're working with people and helping them through theirs. How do you protect yourself from the things that are coming up when you're working with them?
I learned through like all the things I did, all the studies I did for this work.
Mhm.
You really learn how to keep things. I mean, how to be sort of open,
Mhm.
so you feel and do the work, but not
Mhm.
take it on,
Yes.
because
Mm.
it's not mine.
Yes.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
still need to
And
be open, and it's a
yeah.
technique to learn.
Yeah. And to
Yeah.
be effective, you can't take it on, can you? Because you need to keep grounded and stable and be the teacher and the healer.
Yeah, exactly,
Mm.
exactly. And otherwise I'll be a sort of flat out after two clients because
Oh,
I take it all on, and you can't do that work
no.
if you do
So
that.
would some clients sort of say need a year and some have in 2 weeks they've really got there, or is there a sort of general time that it might take with somebody?
Yeah, general, if it's like the things I work with now,
Yes.
that big trauma, usually like roughly like 6 months.
Okay.
Depending on how many work people do, how many time
Yes.
they have.
Yes.
But I think with changing and with trauma, you can't really force it.
No.
You can't
No.
really say, I've got 2 weeks, if I see you every day, it's fixed. Because you
Mm.
need time to let it sink
To
in, to
process.
process,
Mm.
come across situations where it's triggered again, and what do you do then? So that's yeah, it takes a while. It takes a while.
Okay, I can understand that. Yes, I can. You say that you want to leave a legacy. Well, bravo for that. And can you tell us what this will be?
Well, I would be really, yeah, I don't know if it's honored. I would be really happy if people would understand that connecting to your feelings is not woo woo.
Mm.
It's really something you should learn from like a little age, from like baby. And
Hmm.
even, you know, thinking about it, that would be something maybe teaching in schools as well.
Yes,
That
or,
it's
or
normal.
teaching mothers. Mm.
Yeah, and so, and especially I have I'm not quite sure why actually, but I have a sort soft spot for men not experiencing their feelings. Maybe because they have to keep up
Isn't it?
the
It's
post
so, again,
thing.
it's so ridiculous that they're still supposed to be the strong ones and not to cry. And I don't know how long it's going to be before it finally gets through. It's getting through, but
Yeah.
yes, primordially they are the providers and we're the nurturers. But we've moved on since we lived in caves, and yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Well,
still
maybe we didn't. Maybe not as much as we would like.
Oh, well, listen,
Yeah.
I would love to help you with that because I think it's hugely important. I had to have my two beautiful grown-up daughters. Never had
Yeah.
a son. My father was a farmer, so was away most of the day. Somebody once said to me, "That's why you go through life feeling rather than thinking." I need to
Okay.
explore that one. But also, I just, with everything I do, I want to help just like you. People know that self-love is just so hugely important. It's not arrogant or disrespectful. It's the greatest respect you can give yourself is to love
Yeah.
yourself. And in one of my talks, I say the greatest thing you can do, the most important thing that you can do for your children is to love each other as parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the people I've spoken to whose parents loved each other, their childhood was joyful and safe, and that's obviously hugely important. So I
Yeah.
guess actually it's having a good self-value and self-love to choose the right partner with whom to have children in the first instance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. But you need a good base to do that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you have
We
this
have a lot
good
of work
base,
to do, Ingeborg.
it's no time to lose. Yeah.
So we've got to get this out there. So finally, I hope this is okay, but I was browsing your website. Please tell us, if you will, about your new show.
Yeah. I started a podcast show.
Yes.
Um, I'm basically restructuring as we speak as well.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I'm doing. But it's called the Metamind Breakthrough podcast show,
Yes.
and there I'll interview people, and I really want to go more into the in-depth conversations.
Mm, mm,
As a restructuring because it's interesting people, but I think for the listeners it could be even more interesting. So I
mhm,
think I need to do something
mm,
there
mm.
to make it better.
Excellent, because this is one way to reach people.
Yeah.
So yes. Well, when will you launch that?
If I have a few, or if I have the structure sort of ready, and then because I have some people, and I think they would be good for that. So
Mm,
once that's there,
mm.
then I can launch.
Mm,
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
Oh, well
and
done. Bravo, you. Yes, for this, my first season, done a few years ago, is on my YouTube channel. But life got in the way rather with some things. And so I'm just so happy to be resuscitating, I suppose, the spirit in our Spirited Life podcast. And I'm so
yeah,
grateful for people like you to come on and share some quite raw details about your life, but also to share the wisdom that you've learned and how you help other people through that learning. It is incredibly important. So we are now going to get to the bit where, because I'm very excited about this, to learn about either your 3 top tips or the one main takeaway that you'd like to leave our audience with.
yeah. Okay, well, I would say that connecting to your feelings is not woo woo, is essential. So I would give anyone a tip like, if you don't do it, please find someone who can
Yes,
help you with it.
yes, yes.
One way. either way, online, in person, or whatever way you do it. That's where you can learn your children as well if you have
Yeah,
children,
yeah,
which I think is a good thing happening in the world. And another tip for the listeners. Well, the spark I told about in the
yes.
beginning. I am absolutely sure that everyone has that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it takes some time to find it, but there's
Mm.
always a bit inside of you which
Yes.
is not lost, because nothing is lost. It's
No,
just
so
sort of,
keep it fueled,
yeah,
whatever.
keep it
Yeah.
full, or really take the time and maybe from help from other people to find that again. It's there, and then you start like to lit it up,
Yes.
to
Well, it
sort of
must be
give
there because we have a beating heart. We're a
exactly,
living being. So there
yeah,
must be something. And I suppose not being connected with your feelings, um, you're not living to
no,
your anywhere near your full potential or your enjoy and this sort of thing. You're an automaton, and that must be. Oh, I can't imagine that, actually. So
no,
bravo. Thank you for all the work you do. It is extraordinary. I'm looking forward to your podcast and hearing that. Um,
yes,
and very finally, I'd love to know what your choice of music is for your piece and why you've chosen this.
yeah. I choose a number of Queen. Don't Stop Me Now.
Ah, yes.
And I think, yeah, with hearing everything I told
Mm,
you,
mm,
it's
mm.
like a really upbeat number.
Yes.
Um, and the title, yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically what I always did, like
Yeah.
sort of Don't Stop Me Now. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been stopped there for a long time. There's moments in my life, obviously, when I've been stopped or let myself stop. To be honest,
Mm, mm.
um, yeah, but it speaks to me,
Yeah.
and Queen is great
Oh,
anyway.
fantastic.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah. Have you seen
fantastic.
the film Bohemian Rhapsody?
Yeah, I
Just
have. Fun.
amazing. That one and Rocket Man. Elton John saw me through my young life, I have to say. Um, Now, I was going to ask you about the music and the beat and Don't Stop Me Now, and it's gone. Seems like once in every podcast I have a blonde moment. I'm so sorry. If it comes back to me, I'll
Oh,
ask you. Um,
yeah.
well, the last thing, of course, is how do we find you?
Well, you can find me via my website,
Mm-hmm.
uh, www.metamindbreakthrough.com, and you can fill in a form there, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Ingeborg Mooiweer. It's very
Yeah.
easy if you put a name.
Yes, I'll
Uh,
put your name out there anyway. So when we do it, that's what I was going to say. That I'm recording at the moment to sort of put together a bank
yeah,
before I then work on them and launch probably next month. There
okay.
are so many wonderful people like you to hear, and I hope everybody is loving it as much as I am. So Ingeborg, thank you so much. Really, really amazing to hear your journey and how you've put to such brilliant and essential, I would say, use to help other people through their own trauma. It's absolutely brilliant, and I totally agree with you about these things are not woo woo. I used to think, and it was a business mentor who's actually on my first podcast, Carrie Lindeen, who said, well, number one, she said, this is not woo, it's science. Albert
Mhm.
Einstein, all of these things. And
Yeah,
the fact that we're all energy and we're all energetically created to one another, which has its advantages and disadvantages, I think. So actually that disconnecting, and it can be quite complex, but I think on the other hand, perhaps if you know what to do, it can be
yeah,
quite simple. You can manage your whole life then. So
yeah.
thank you. I really appreciate you sharing.
My
I really
pleasure. It
do.
was my
Thank
pleasure.
you. So I just want to say to our audience that if you found this episode, and I'm sure you will, enjoyable and inspiring, feel free to share it with your family and friends. And if you'd like to be a guest on Our Spirited Life, do get in touch. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye for now.